This is going to be a long one, guys, but I hope you find it worthwhile. We're going to get super sciencey and super in-depth to pinpoint who sees rain, who sees snow, who sees ice, and then who gets the severe weather. That's mainly going to be for the deep south. What's going on, guys? I'm certified meteorologist Jonathan Kegas. Storm 1 continues to ramp up to the mid-Atlantic. Storm 2 is just getting going, and it's that second one that's going to bring heavy snow to parts of the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and then that severe weather threat into the deep south. We're going to get all into it. If you want to stay updated on both of these storms for the rest of the week, you have to hit subscribe. Please do that and join the best weather community on YouTube. We have that weather conversation. I would love to know what the weather is doing where you are tuning in from. Please post that in the comments. And we're going to get to it. Water vapor imagery in green there shows storm number 1. Storm number 2, also closer to the Rockies right now in Colorado. That is getting going. And that's where we're going to start tonight is Tuesday evening, storm 2. This is going to be the really widespread snow event. Really gets going here. That's going to start to work its way out of the Rockies and materialize, gain some strength as it moves into parts of Nebraska, Kansas, into Iowa, bringing the heavy snow. More on this one in just 1 second, but we're going to go day by day here. So we're going to transition into Wednesday morning as storm number 1 is wrapping up a super impactful snow and ice event. And when you wake up on Wednesday morning, there's likely still going to be some ice accumulation or ice accretion happening, especially around the Blue Ridge Mountains through north of Richmond, south of DC there in that stripe, as there's still some colder air stuck right at the base of the Appalachian Mountains there. We call that cold air damming, and that's why we're still going to be getting some lingering ice potential, lingering freezing rain into parts of extreme northern mountainous western North Carolina, and then into the mountains of Virginia, and then again bending towards Richmond and just south of DC as that colder air continues to come down the spine of the Appalachians and that moisture source remains. So that is Wednesday morning. We're going to be wrapping up storm number 1 as we get into Wednesday afternoon and evening. But as that one is wrapping up, we have this bad boy here really starting to ramp up. So this is what you'll likely wake up to on Wednesday morning, this red bullseye area. And we'll go over some expected totals in just 1 second. And again, the chapters are going to be in the description if you want to bounce around to some of the totals or some of the other things that we're going to talk about in this video. Again, the severe weather threat is coming up as well. And that looks to be a little rough both on Wednesday and then again getting into the start of the weekend. So we'll highlight that in just 1 second. But here we go. The bullseye there in the darker red from Wichita back towards the panhandle of Oklahoma into southern Iowa on Wednesday morning for the potential for some of those heavier snow rates to happen. Then that potential during Wednesday afternoon slides north and east. So we're talking areas north of St. Louis in the red there, towards Chicago, towards Milwaukee, towards Detroit. We're going to get really, really in-depth for you guys in Detroit because you are literally on the line. I will show you how close this is going to come to this all being snow or mix getting involved as well. But up to Grand Rapids, likely all snow. And then you see that pink color. That's where we're dealing with the light opportunity for some icing. And that's going to be from about St. Louis into Indianapolis, into just south of Detroit, and then towards Erie, Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania. And again, you see that deep dark purple there. That continues for the Blue Ridge Mountains, the greatest opportunity for that continued significant ice accumulation there. Where you're in the green, you're out of luck. Somebody messaged me from Columbus, posted in the comments, please give us snow. It looks like it's going to be too warm in Columbus and closer towards Paducah, into southern Illinois, toward Marion, toward Carbondale, into Little Rock. That is going to be just a cold, nasty rain. So here is a broad overview, and then we're going to get into some more numbers in just 1 second of the snow potential here as this system works its way across from the Rockies into the plains, into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. In that blue area, that's where we're going to have a good opportunity. The darkest blue that you see there, about 6 inches of snow. And that's really from about Kansas City into Omaha. And Omaha, parts of Iowa, we have hardly seen any snow. If you live there, you know what I'm talking about. Through Des Moines, Milwaukee, Chicago in on that as well. And then just to the north of Detroit, I think this particular model here has the snow a little bit too far north of Detroit. I do think we're going to have the opportunity to get involved in that snow. So what I'm going to do now in significant snow, what I'm going to do now is take you kind of hour by hour, First, on the cold side of the storm, we're going to talk about the severe weather threats. If you are watching from Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Florida, we're going to get to you guys. I promise, again, that time code is going to be in the description if you want to jump ahead, although I hope that you continue to hang out with us because we're going to get real in-depth in just 1 second when it comes to that rain snow line, so you don't want to miss that. So there's the blue representing the snow, the pink represents the mix, and there's lunchtime on Wednesday. Some light to moderate snow moving into Milwaukee, Chicago, some heavy snow into St. Louis, and then that snow starts to push a little bit further to the north. So I talked about, excuse me, Detroit earlier. It's going to be oh so close. And right here, this is the high resolution model. It did very well with storm number 1 on the southern extent of that heavy snow. It's doing, I think it's going to do a pretty good job here as well. But we'll watch one of the things. I'll show you what we're really watching for that rain snow line in just 1 second if you're in Southeast Michigan. But there we go with the blue. So far, the high resolution rapid refresh wants it most, if not all, snow in Detroit. There's midnight on Thursday into the early morning hours of Thursday, and we're continuing to keep things all snow there. Let me back this train up and go hour by hour. I stayed zoomed in on Detroit a little too long. I want to show what's going on for everybody. So there's, again, 4 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. There we go, lunchtime on Wednesday. And then we see that heavy rain push also into parts of southern Canada, closer to Toronto. This is going to be a nice snowstorm for you guys. Into Ottawa, into Montreal, into Quebec. We have some icing going on in Buffalo, some rain to ice in Erie, Pennsylvania, and then this continues to push its way to the north and east, and some moderate to heavy snow falling in places like upstate New York, into New Hampshire, into Maine, Vermont, parts of Massachusetts as well. So that is the as I call it, the high resolution rapid refresh model. There's some of the heavy snow that continues until 8 o'clock in the morning. There, by the way, on Thursday is that big low. You see that right there cranking right over Lake Huron. So that's kind of nuts. That's a big area of low pressure that has developed as a result of that difference in temperature and pressure that is across the United States. And we're going to get into that major temperature divide. There's so much to break down in this video here. So that's what's left of Storm 1. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. And there is storm number 2. Here is the footprint of it, again, coming out of the Rockies, sliding through the Midwest. That's the heaviest snow. Again, we have another area of some light to moderate snow right on in through here. So again, a giant swath. If you're traveling, it's not the best. But let's get in and get pinpointy here. So St. Louis, I think 1 to 3 inches of snow is going to be possible for you. Kansas City, maybe 2 to 4 inches. We could get a little bit more as well, maybe pushing that 4 to 8 range, 3 to 6 at least. I think we'll go 3 to 6 in that point with the latest data that I was looking at prior to this. Let's go to central Iowa. It's been a long time since we've had a decent snowstorm. Back to Omaha as well. I think we're going to be at least into that 3 to 6, possibly 4 to 8 inch timeline there. The snowfall amount. Same deal for Chicago. Decent snowstorm coming. Now, Detroit may be the hardest area to forecast, and I will show you why in just 1 second. But according to the high resolution model there's about 4 inches in Detroit. Toledo, that's where I think we're going to have some big time mixing issues, about 1 to 2 inches. And then closer to Flint and Saginaw, you are definitely in all the snow, and that's where it cranks up there. Toronto, mentioned this was a good snowstorm for you. 12 inches of snow coming on the pipeline for, that's, again, about a foot into places like Toronto, into Ottawa going forward. So a nice snowstorm. Again, it has been a long time. And that's going to be, by the way, about 30 centimeters for my Canadian friends that are tuning in. Even more than that in that pink strip there in between Toronto and Ottawa, maybe even pushing 2 feet. Again, this storm means business. We saw that low pressure really ramp up there as it lifted to the north and east, closer to the Great Lakes. So a decent snowstorm. It's been a while for a lot of us here to get this. Okay, if you're still with me, give me a thumbs up. Before we get into the severe weather stuff, and that's going to be a significant component of this storm, and we'll also show you the ice, and maybe I'll show you the ice right now because it is still all related to this. And then we'll get into the real high level, okay, the forecasting principles here, the forecasting procedure when it comes to that's the severe weather setup that we'll get into one second. But I want to show you again the high resolution model when it comes to who sees the ice. And again, certainly it is significant for the rest of Tuesday and then into, gosh, I hope we don't get an inch of ice in Roanoke, but that opportunity is going to be there with that colder air locked in at the surface and the warmer air trying to move in above that dome there. That's a significant ice storm in Southwest Virginia after already getting several inches of snow earlier on Tuesday. Here's that or that ice snow line. It is oh so close to Detroit. Toledo, a glaze, and maybe up to a quarter of an inch in this area towards Findlay, Ohio. Back towards Muncie, could get a quarter of an inch, and then there's some light icing, a tenth, 500ths of an inch to a tenth of an inch around the State College area into central PA. Also some light icing going out to places like Massachusetts again, Connecticut, Rhode Island. Some light icing there. Okay, so this is the real fun part. At least I think it's fun because this is where the high-level forecasting comes in. This is where you're not just looking at that model output. What I want to show you here, we are looking at what we call the 850 temperature. So this is going to be the temperature a couple thousand feet above your head. And I want to start with the model that I've been showing you. So I showed you the high-resolution rapid refresh. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot of teeny tiny numbers. What I want you to pay attention to is this purple line right here. That is the 0 degree Celsius line, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. That's the freezing line. Wherever that line starts to creep up, that is where we're going to see the changeover from snow to freezing rain. Okay, so let's watch here. So this is going to be early on Thursday, late Wednesday night, early Thursday morning. Watch that little band of purple try to creep up. And by the way, we're looking about right in here. This is Detroit. Toledo's a little bit further down here. The HRRR is the most aggressive with keeping the cold air locked in. It tries to push. Look how close. We do go to 0 degrees Celsius in Toledo at 850. It never makes it to Detroit. So the HRRR is arguing for most, if not all of the event, to be snow in Detroit. I do think there's going to be a little bit of mixing. However, the most aggressive model when it comes to the surge of warm air from south to north in these events is going to be the NAM. This is the North American model here, and it does get it into Detroit. So I would suspect that we are going to have, and there's that 0 degree number right around Detroit. I do think there was going to be a brief period. However, that quickly backs off, and then the cold air starts to push back in. From a perspective of taking out all of those numbers and seeing that raw model output here, again, let me circle Detroit on the map again. It's right about here, give or take. And you see the pink there representing that wintry mix. There goes, it starts to snow. That mix kind of sneaks in early Thursday morning, and then the event ends as snow for Detroit. In terms of how much this particular model is spitting out, so to speak, let me show you that. We're going to go to the winter mode, and then we're going to go to that. So even so, the NAM model wants about, there it is, there's Detroit right there, 5.2. I would venture to say 3 to 6 inches of snow is a good bet. I would not be surprised with how fine that line is and how close that line gets. If that cold air can just hang on for like a couple of extra hours, we could go north of 6 inches of snow. So look at how, the difference here. You're pushing 8 to 12 inches, what? A 20 to 30 minute drive north and northwest of Detroit. Crazy. I'm going to show you another model here. This is the GFS, and look how close, again, it gets hit. And this is, to be a forecaster in Detroit right now, and I keep on singling out Detroit because we had a lot of people on the chat yesterday around Detroit. Look how close. And this is also a good kind of meteorology 101. Detroit's about right there. And that freezing line is like right on the south side. So, it could literally be the south side of Detroit gets a little bit of mixing. The north side of Detroit in the city gets all snow. So this is fascinating stuff here. And this is one of the reasons why I think winter weather forecasting is so fun. And it would also make you go bald by pulling your hair out. Here we go. This is the European rendition. This model is the most aggressive with the warmer air. There's Detroit, and the freezing line is surging all the way through Metro Detroit. So I know that was kind of long-winded, but I wanted to show you kind of the forecast process that meteorologists go through when they're trying to determine the rain-snow line. It's much more than just looking at some of those models that are everywhere. You have to really dissect what's going on in the different layers, kind of like a cake. The mid-levels of the atmosphere, and certainly a couple thousand feet above your head in this case, really tells the story. Okay, so I know my friends in the South have been waiting for an update on the severe weather threat, and here we go. I did forget to omit this. I did omit this yesterday, and I apologize for it. I forgot to come back to the weather computer. We were talking about so much, but nonetheless, here we go. This is going to be for Wednesday, and I'll show you the future radar in high resolution mode when it comes to this. But that strong cold front blasting through, meeting up with wind out of the south and southwest, bringing in that rich Gulf moisture back to the deep south. That is what's going to aid in the development of the potential for a few strong to severe thunderstorms, especially east of Houston, Louisiana, into Mississippi, parts of Alabama as well. So that is on Wednesday. Here is how it likely plays out. So this is going to be early in the morning on Wednesday. Might be woken up prematurely around San Antonio into Houston, and then sliding up into central Louisiana. That's 8 o'clock in the morning towards DeRidder, south of Shreveport now, Baton Rouge, New Orleans getting in on that. And then I think the real main event when it comes to the severe weather gets underway into the afternoon. We're going to be watching these little kidney bean-shaped guys for the potential for a few tornadoes. We never like whenever they're isolated and look like kidney beans. That means, again, we have supercell structures. We had the potential to produce some hail, and especially that tornado threat. There's also some Boeing segments in here as indicated by the high resolution model. So we're going to be watching again for that potential for severe weather. So that's going to be on Wednesday. That continues late into Wednesday evening. You see now more of a line. This will be a damaging wind threat from Atlanta back towards Baton Rouge and New Orleans late Wednesday night into early Thursday morning. That will also continue to march, losing its punch a little bit by Thursday at 5 o'clock in the morning, but still the opportunity for a few stray severe thunderstorms getting into Tallahassee, Augusta, Macon, Albany, Georgia, Columbia, South Carolina, at least with some gusty winds and the potential for these things to be a little loud and wake you up prematurely. Now, there's yet another system on the heels of this one that could bring severe weather to the deep south. This is that rare day 5 risk. So if you're not familiar, the Storm Prediction Center outlooks day 1, day 2, day 3. That was going to be the day 2 risk for Wednesday that the SPC highlights. Whenever they go into that, they have that also kind of experimental 4 to 8 day range. Whenever they do that, that means that there is heightened confidence for a severe weather event, potentially an outbreak. And that's what we're going to be watching for as well. A little more potent system comes through. This is also the system that, if you're a race fan, could put parts of the Daytona 500 in jeopardy. Cold front going to bring some rain and thunderstorms to Daytona during the day on Sunday. But prior to that, again, could be a little rowdy from Beaumont, east of Houston, into Shreveport, Alexandria, DeRidder, Baton Rouge, Hattiesburg, Montgomery, into Birmingham, Huntsville, Tupelo, up to Nashville, just south of Memphis. That is that day 4 risk area for Sunday that we will be watching. All modes of severe weather look like that's on the table for that day. And of course, we will give you more high resolution and more specific updates for that as we get a little closer. Now, the timestamp is going back to Wednesday, but this is kind of the colder air that gets dislodged from that secondary storm. It's been frigid up in the upper Midwest and northern plains. It's been really hot in the deep south. But there are the temperatures again, where you see that dark red area from Billings into Bozeman, into Rapid City, Denver, Cheyenne, into Wyoming, parts of Nebraska, Kansas, North Texas, Oklahoma. That's where we could have air temperatures pushing 30 degrees below normal, not below zero, below normal. So whatever you're typically used to seeing, we're going to be about 20 to 25, 30 degrees colder than that. To put that in actually what that means, here we go. This is going to be through the day on Wednesday, February 12th. Below zero temperatures across the northern tier of the country. Look at the divide in temperature. I mean, you're talking 70s in Pensacola, and then it drops to 40s, couple hour drive to Little Rock, a little more than a couple hour drive, but you catch my drift. 80s in Orlando. The divide in temperatures gets even crazier as we get into Thursday. So this is going to be Thursday morning, and you see that air, that colder air blasting down towards the Gulf. We're now in the 50s in Houston, 30s in Dallas, 20s to 30s below zero in parts of the northern plains, upper Midwest. Meanwhile, we're starting the day off in Orlando right around 70, where we could reach our earliest 90-degree temperature reading on record in Orlando. We would beat that by a couple days if, in fact, we do hit that in Orlando. The current forecast is around 90. You see there again, high temperatures in Fargo, 1 degree below zero. So there's a bit of difference between being in the Florida Peninsula, as there typically is this time of the year, into the upper Midwest and northern plains. All right. I know that was a lot. There is so much to talk about, though. We're going to have more in other videos coming up this week because there's just so much to break down. I hope you enjoyed the nerdiness. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. That's why we're here, to have this weather conversation and to give you the weather, just the information, the science, without all that hype and the garbage that's out there. That's important to me that you know that. And if you've been with us for a while, and thank you for the 100,000 plus strong that have been with us, I appreciate you. I appreciate your storm reports, and I appreciate the conversation that we have together in the comments and when we go live and all that stuff. I truly do appreciate you. I love doing these videos, and I love the conversation that these videos bring, especially when they're about the science and meteorology behind it. All right, I'll stop talking now. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, post in the comments what the weather is doing. It helps us verify the forecast as well, and I would just love to see how these two storms are playing out with what we talked about as well. So again, do me a favor, post in the comments for me, share this with your friends, hit that thumbs up button. You know the drill, guys. Thanks for being on the team. Couldn't do this without you. Appreciate you all. Have a great one, and we will see you in the next video.